Sony's next flagship phone just leaked on Amazon by accident, and the price is so extreme people thought it had to be fake. Before we jump in, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. It really helps me keep bringing you more tech breakdowns like this one. We're talking over $2,000 for the upcoming Xperia 1 Mark 8. That's more expensive than most high-end laptops, more expensive than a Galaxy S26 Ultra, and even pricier than Apple's top-tier iPhone 17 Pro Max in some regions. And somehow, Sony still thinks this is the move. The leak came from accidental Amazon listings in Germany and the UK before Sony officially announced the phone. According to those listings, the Xperia 1 Mark 8 could cost around €1,869 in Germany and £1,728 in the UK. Converted directly, that's somewhere around $2,200 to $2,350, depending on the market. Now, to be fair, these could still be placeholder prices, which happens sometimes before launch. But even if the final price ends up slightly lower, it still points towards Sony pushing this phone into ultra-premium territory. And honestly, this matters because smartphone pricing has been getting out of control lately. Flagships used to cross the $1,000 mark, and people thought that was insane. Now we're seeing foldables approach $2,000, and even mid-range phones are quietly becoming more expensive every year. Sony seems to be leaning fully into that trend instead of fighting it. What makes this even more interesting is that the leaked listings weren't just for the phone alone. They reportedly included Sony's upcoming WH-1000 XM6 premium headphones bundled in. So yes, that adds value, but even with premium headphones included, this is still a very expensive package for a smartphone. Now let's talk about what you're supposedly getting for that money. The Xperia 1 Mark 8 is expected to come with a 6.5-inch FHD Plus OLED display and a 120Hz refresh rate. That sounds good, but also kind of surprising considering the price. At over $2,000, some people expected Sony to push higher display resolutions or newer panel tech. Sony seems to be sticking with the tall, cinematic display style it's known for, instead of chasing flashy specs. The camera setup is where things start getting more interesting. According to the leak, the phone will feature a triple rear camera system with a 16mm ultra-wide lens, a 24mm main camera, and a brand new 70mm telephoto lens. Sony has always focused heavily on camera enthusiasts and creators, and Xperia phones usually offer more manual control than most competitors. There's also mention of Xperia AI, which probably means Sony is finally leaning harder into AI-powered photography and smart features like every other brand right now. Whether that actually improves the experience or just becomes another marketing term is something we'll have to wait and see. One detail that longtime Sony fans will definitely appreciate is the rumored return of the 3.5mm headphone jack. In 2026, that almost feels rebellious. Most flagship brands completely abandoned it years ago, but Sony continues treating its phones like devices made for media lovers and audio enthusiasts. That alone gives Xperia phones a unique identity in a market where almost every flagship looks and feels the same. Battery life could also be a major selling point. The listing mentions a 2-day battery, which if true, would immediately stand out. Most premium smartphones today barely survive a full heavy use day, especially with powerful chips and AI features running constantly. If Sony actually delivers reliable 2-day battery life without making the phone ridiculously thick, that's genuinely impressive. As for colors, the leak mentions graphite black, iolite silver, and garnet red. Sony usually keeps its designs clean and understated, so those choices sound very believable. But here's the real problem. Even if the Xperia 1 Mark 8 turns out to be an incredible phone, Sony still has to convince people that it's worth spending more money on than devices from Samsung or Apple, and that's not an easy sell anymore. The Galaxy S26 Ultra will likely offer more mainstream features, stronger software support, better ecosystem integration, and a more recognizable brand presence for less money. The iPhone 17 Pro Max will probably dominate in video recording, app optimization, and ecosystem lock-in, while also costing less in Europe. So Sony isn't just competing on specs, it's competing against ecosystems people are already deeply invested in. And this is where Sony's smartphone strategy becomes really interesting. Xperia phones almost feel like enthusiast products now. They're designed for a smaller group of users who specifically care about manual photography controls, creator-focused features, expandable storage, or headphone jacks. Sony doesn't seem to be interested in chasing mass-market dominance anymore. Personally, I think the Xperia 1 Mark VIII sounds like a fascinating phone, but also a very difficult phone to recommend at that rumored price. Sony still makes devices with personality, and that's rare today, but personality alone may not justify spending over $2,000 on a smartphone in a market full of excellent alternatives. At this point, Sony isn't just selling a phone, it's selling a niche experience for people who specifically want what Xperia offers. The question is whether enough people still want that experience badly enough to pay this much for it. What's your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments section. See you in the next video. Take care.